Ish takes a picture with Joe Buddens' OPPS, Rory and Mandi. That's right, y'all. Mandi was just celebrating her birthday, and Ish, the Muffin Man himself, took a interesting picture with Rory and Mandi. Now, these are Joe Budden's biggest ops when it comes to podcasting, and most fans know that he's fallen out with both of them in serious manners. Like, this whole thing is really fascinating because all of us know that Rory and Joe have had a really contentious relationship. Now, I know a lot of you might say, Danny, this is COE. This is not COE. Rory and Joe had real issues with each other. I mean, the two had a podcast for many years. They eventually started accusing each other of thievery, and Joe made it seem like Rory was a crazy white man who stole the pod from him like Jerry Heller stole NWA. And then there's Mandi. Mandi had her own podcast, See the Thing Is, on the Joe Budden Network. But a lot of drama and controversy would ensue, with them eventually leaving the network under weird circumstances and having a contract that entitled Joe to profits in perpetuity from the podcast. And ever since then, Rory, Mandy, and Joe would be at odds. But now we arrive to present day, where Ish is going to Mandy's birthday party and taking a picture with Rory and Mandi. Now, this isn't just an issue because of the picture, it's also an issue because Ish is there, and Ish barely goes to any events that the Joe Budden podcast throws. So this is just a lot of meat on this bone. Pause. But let's zoom out, because why does the podcast, the Joe Budden podcast, have such close ties to Mandi? Flip has close ties to Mandi. Remember, he did a whole episode with her where he was basically, talking to her, and this was in the midst of what it seemed to be a contract fallout with Joe. Then Imani, he goes to birthday parties with Mandi all the time. And just a little bit of behind the scenes, when I interviewed Imani, he called Mandi on the phone and immediately put her on the phone with me. She was talking crazy to me. I had to talk crazy. I had to bust back. But anyway, that just goes to show you that the two are pretty close if he's able to just dial her up and get her on the FaceTime. Then you have Ish, who speaks to Mandi quite often. And then you have Ice, who was partying with Mandi quite frequently. So now we have to zoom out. Can anyone on the podcast call Ish out? Like, it's different if Joe does it, because Joe is not really cool with Mandi. He's been talking really crazy about Mandi. There was a time on the podcast where he said, I could never be that girl's friend. And it did seem like Mandi wanted to mend fences when she said on an IG Live, I wanted to get a steak dinner out of Joe. But Joe doesn't want to do that. And Mandi has been taking shots at the podcast, specifically Melissa Ford. And Ish never has her back. So what's going on here? What's going on here? Because what I'm noticing more and more is Ish is becoming detached. The signs of a detached employee are he never shows up to work functions. He just comes and goes, doesn't like making any small talk. He wasn't there at Podsgiving. I'm going to be watching this Podsgiving. If Ish is not there, oh boy, we got a video coming. And there was a time when Ish was about to go on vacation and he just dipped. He didn't even say bye to anybody. I think Ish cozying up to Mandi is a sign. And we have to remember, Mandi knows a lot about the podcast industry. She knows how to get ads. She knows how to make a show without having a big hit of a podcast. Even though Horrible Decisions is a big hit of a podcast. But we need to come up with a new name. Mandi the Monetizer. She can lead people to bags. She has connections to both Charlemagne and Joe Budden. She has a value. And Joe's value may not be as extensive as Mandy's. She's the connector. She can put you in touch with an ad agency. She can put you in touch with Charlemagne. And that's just one thing we have to zone in on because it has large reaching ramifications for the podcast. One that reveals where everything is going. I wonder if Melissa Ford enjoys that Ish is so close to Mandi, that members of the pod are so close to Mandi. Nobody rides for Melissa Ford. But anytime Mandy's name comes up, nobody says anything negative. It's quiet. Mum's the word. Hey, everybody, she's cool. And then we have the whole Rory thing. Rory and Joe have exchanged crazy blows to each other's legacy in media. Rory on a space last December said, "Why doesn't Joe talk about his sexual harassment lawsuit?" After Joe said that Eden should sue the podcast for the whole Julian fight. That's almost a whole year ago. That's crazy. But these guys are at odds. I don't think they like each other. The last time they saw each other was at 40-40, I believe, when they were running into each other Cinco de Mayo. And Joe went up to them and Rory told him, "Get the F up out my face. I don't want to see you." And this was as a result of Joe saying things like he saw him at the Robert Glasper concert. Essentially, Joe was being messy and tried to break up Rory and Mal by insinuating they had some type of friendship or relationship. There's a lot of dialogue. There's a lot of things that needs to be discovered. It's crazy out here, y'all. It's not a game. Remember Lost Boys Renee? It's not a game, son. It was all a game. Oh, chill. It's not a game here. And I think Ish is so, I don't want to say ignorant, but he's so oblivious to the dynamics between podcasts that he doesn't even care to distance himself and took the photo anyway. He was at Mandy's party playing cards. I ain't never seen him look that happy. He's smiling in the picture. Meanwhile, he looks miserable on the podcast. Nasty work. But I understand why Ish trusts Mandi more. I would imagine Ish mostly talks to Joe on the podcast and not in real life. So when he's talking to other people, he's having authentic conversations. And that's the danger when you do content with someone. Their on-air persona becomes who they really are to you. You don't really know the person off air, and the lines get blurred. But, like I said before in this video, let me know what you think in the comments. Is this a big deal? I think it's a big deal. That's why I got up and did this video early. Alright, y'all. Follow me on Instagram, The Stop TV. Follow me on Twitter, The Stop TV. This is Danny from The Stop. Peace.